Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Yellow Pages Bookcast. We're your hosts. This is Steven.
And this is Jason. And this is the podcast where we go over Asian American fiction, enjoy a good read. We'll be doing a short review, character breakdowns, casting choices, if applicable, and overall themes that we enjoyed.
Jason, you sound so down today, man. Where's your enthusiasm?
I'm working up to it, don't worry.
Okay. Well, as you guys know, we've been reading the Dandelion Dynasty series by Ken Liu, and we are currently on the third book called The Veiled Throne. And this is kind of our project because the first three were already out, and then the fourth one just recently like released. I think a month ago, and in June at least. And you know, we're trying to make this a thing where we read through the entire series and just see how the overall story arc goes in general. But yeah, Jason.
So you guys can probably tell from the energy in my voice that this is the third book in the series. Each volume in the series has been upwards of like 900,000 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when Steven says this is a thousand pages, it is like legit thousand pages. This is no joke.
Yeah.
You probably knock someone out with the hardcover version.
Oh,
Actually,
yeah. That
the paperback probably could leave it then too. But yeah, like so I think I've bitten off more than I can usually chew with this series. Like reading each volume almost back to back. We've only
yeah.
been reading like one thing in between each volume, right? Like
Yeah.
one was a short comic, Monstrous. What was the one before that?
Oh man, I don't even
Yeah, it's
remember.
been we're spending a lot of time on reading, so it like yeah.
It's
But
it's definitely
basically,
slowed us down.
speaking of slowing down,
As Jason said, this is a really long book. Um, and the last series we did, it was Fonda Lee. You know, she did the Jade City and the whole thing, Jade Wars, Jade Legacy, and those were within 600 pages or so. But like Jason said, this is an epic, and they're really building these stories. So Jason, if you don't mind, I'm gonna do a really quick overview of the book, like really bare bones overview, no spoilers, and whatever I miss out on, you just add in little details. Okay, just sprinkle it in.
sure.
Okay, so basically this is a direct sequel to the last book, so it just starts immediately after the last book. Basically, Thera is going through the Wall of Storms to the Ukyus, or whatever they're called.
Liu,
And huh?
Liuku?
Oh yeah, Ryukyu. Sorry, I think their land is called Ukyu though, but whatever, it doesn't matter. So they're going into this hostile land that they're not aware of, and and in Dara, you still have this situation with the Ryukyu and the current Dandelion Empire. They have a sort of peaceful truce amongst them, but within the story, there are starting to be like the Ryukyu are trying to break away from the peace, and they're trying to find ways to get the technology that they need, whereas the Darin or the Dandelion folks, what are they called?
Dara.
Dara, right?
Yeah.
And so the Dara folks, they're trying to trying to figure out how to fight with the Garinnafins and things of that nature. So right now it's the point before the epic battle, which is probably going to be book 4. Right now, what they're doing in this book is they're just establishing characters, showing you like where in the world that they are, how the characters develop and how the story and the conflicts within the political regions, how those are developing. And it's an intense book. It's like 956 pages, whatever it is. But there's a lot of characters. There's a lot of story. Okay, anything I missed?
Yeah. So
Damn.
so I think originally Ken Liu was going to make a trilogy, but then the last book, which is
Uh-huh.
this book right here,
Yeah.
um, was getting pretty long, so he made the decision to split that in half, which is why we have the Veiled Throne and then the last book, Speaking Bones. Um,
Okay.
and so I think that's pretty apparent here for reasons that we'll go in our spoiler section. But yeah, I think you got the gist of it. There's many different threads, many different characters doing their own thing. You can sort at this distance from the end, you can probably see what's gonna happen. Like the pieces are falling into place.
Yeah.
They're not quite there yet. We can probably like guess their trajectory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like kind of like the previous two books, there's a lot of engineering here, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, Pretty interesting characters, both old and a lot of new ones as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, if you like the first two, then you'll definitely want to check this one out with
Right.
some caveats, which we will talk about soon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So overall, like, do you want to head into personal ratings?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and give my rating right now. And you know what I realized that like after our discussions and after thinking about a lot of things that you say or I say, sometimes our ratings will change a little bit, just analytically speaking, but so we'll give our personal rating now, but I don't know, it might change afterwards. But so right now I give this a. Hey, are we doing fractions on this?
Yeah, it's out of five, so we kind of need fractions.
Okay, so I actually really really enjoyed this book, and we're probably gonna get into it because there are certain things that you didn't enjoy that I actually kind of did. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this like a 4.5.
Wow.
I really dig it. I like all the new characters that they decided to introduce. Although I wonder what it would be like if they didn't have all those characters and they just kind of stuck with the main folks.
Hmm.
Um, Number one, I think the books would definitely be shorter,
Yeah, definitely.
and I feel like that might be a thing that would have helped a bit. But I do like all the new characters, and once it got to a certain point, I felt like everything was flowing very smoothly, very quickly, and I didn't lose any steam after that certain point. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book. Uh, I still think I like Fonda Lee's Jade World a little bit more, just because of how intimate it is. But
Hmm.
yeah, I'm gonna go with a 4.5 on this one.
Okay,
What
wow,
about
that
you?
that's pretty high. I honestly, my personal rating, and please remember this is my personal rating.
Right.
Um, yeah, I'd probably give it a 2.75.
Dang, what a drop.
Yeah, I mean, there is so I think I contribute most of that to a change of pace.
Okay.
Uh, like about 60% of the way through, which we'll discuss after this. So,
Right.
Veiled Throne by Ken Liu, book three of Dandelion Dynasty, a very unique epic fantasy series. If you're interested, check it out. If you like the first two books, you'll definitely want to continue it.
Yeah.
Don't take my relatively low rating to heart. This is very subjective.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, but yeah, let's shall we go into spoilers?
Yeah, I'm down to go into spoilers. You're being so political, Jason. Like what's going on with you, man?
What do you mean political?
You're all like, "Oh, this is just my personal preference."
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I'm messing with you, but
Because
okay. So,
yeah,
huh?
because I know that like this is what he did about 60% of the way through is pretty divisive, I believe.
Is it really like
Yeah, because I mean, look at us. Like you liked it, I didn't, right?
right?
Yeah, and the sample size of two is already like half and half. So pretty sure I'm pretty sure if like we dug into reviews out there, it would be some people liked it, some people didn't.
Okay. No, I gotcha. Okay, so let's jump into spoilers. Okay.
Yeah. So basically 60% of the way through. So most of the book is focusing on Thera and her prince Takval,
Yep.
right? These
Talk
names are
vault.
tough because reading you only see them, but you never hear anyone say them. So
Yeah.
saying them out loud for the first time is kind of weird.
I wonder what it would be like if we got like the audio book.
Yeah, probably be much different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
So I would say like the majority of the book, like that's the main thread for 60% of the book, like the
Right.
first 2/3.
And I
Um,
really like that part.
yeah, because they're like they have a really hard task, and you know
Yeah.
they face setback after setback, and then you know something really bad happens where they're sold out, and basically
Right.
everything they've spent years working on is ruined. So you're like, oh shit, like what's gonna happen now? And then Ken Liu is like, nope, I'm gonna take you over to like basically all new characters, all new things, like a sudden shift in tone, very
Yeah.
sudden shift in setting, sudden shift in perspectives and POV characters.
Right.
Um,
And
yeah. So honestly, I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, you know, like I just like stopped there and I like didn't pick up the book for another couple days because I'm like, I like because you're shifting from something like high stakes to something that you know like 20 pages in. I'm like, this is like what the hell? Like, what is this? Right?
yeah,
Like,
and he also starts to cross cut between this and that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And so, Jason, we're in spoilers anyways. Just tell him what happens. What is it that took you away from it? Like
So
what?
basically, it's like a contest between two restaurants.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like Iron Chef.
It's
So they have like a cook off, and then they
yeah.
have like a who can put on the best show. And it becomes like this. I don't want to say like a Scooby Doo thing, but there's like this very villainous caricature
Okay.
antagonist.
Yeah.
Like he's like the comic book. Well, not even comic book, like the Scooby Doo bad guy, right?
Everyone
Uh,
knows he's bad. Like once you read about him, he's bad. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like very one dimensional.
Yeah.
You know, like very like not a complex character at all.
Yeah, that's true.
He's like the one behind everything, and then our like new gang, the Blossom Gang, that's what they're called. Um, you know, at first I'm like, these are all new characters I'm supposed to care about. Like, Jesus, like I don't know, I don't know if I have it in me. So you know, to me that really broke momentum.
Okay.
Usually I blast through these books relatively quickly, but this is the first one where I was kind of struggling.
I see.
Yeah, so like I I don't want to boast, but like typically I love like these epic fantasies. I once I start, like it's hard for me to stop.
Yeah.
This is like one of the few that you know I couldn't really do. And honestly, like after finishing the book, I definitely see why he did what he did. Like Kinry is a very important character. Like he's like a metaphorical and physical like manifestation of the struggle between cultures that
Right.
these people have been focusing on.
Right.
So I know he's going to be a pivotal character, but it took a lot of effort from me as a reader to get to that point.
Mhm.
Um, which you know, if I were Ken Liu, you know, this is book 3. The readers who have gotten this far are already invested, so I don't think
Right.
it's that much of a stretch to ask this one more task of the readers.
Right.
But for me, you know, I was like getting taxed pretty severely.
And so
Uh,
you kind of mentioned it. So you know, like, so you've read thousand page books before, then, right?
yeah, not too often, but it's been done before.
Okay, okay. So you've done that before, because for me, yeah, it like, you know what I liked about this particular book. I agree with you that, like, there's a tonal change. Um, but yeah, just what I liked is that he creates very interesting characters. What I'm gonna reiterate this though, I really wish that he would just keep with a set group of people, because you don't have to, like, always build and build. I know you have to world build and stuff, but sometimes to keep it intimate is kind of a good thing. Like, that way, not every book you have to reinvest in new characters. And
Yeah.
I think that was one of our problems, from the first book to the second book, right? From Grace of Kings to the Wall of Storms, because he created these really cool characters like Kunigaru, right? And then Wall of Storms, he kills them off. And not only that, they act differently from the way they acted in the first book. What I like about this book, though, is that he's not killing anyone off. He's actually established, or adding to the established children. So it kind of makes me wonder, was his plan always to make these kids like his this legacy? Like, was that his goal, to just like, or I don't know. It's really hard for me to say. Like, what do you think about that? Like, the whole idea of legacy, because now you're starting to see the kids of Kunigaru step up, right?
Yeah. You know what I've realized? Like, I didn't see this sooner, but Ken Liu, he's an engineer. So
Right.
he basically writes his books like an engineer, kind of like how, Christopher Nolan is like plot over a character most of the time.
Right.
I feel like Ken Liu is kind of going for the same thing here, where characters are like primarily devices to, like, instead of being an emotional anchor for the readers, they're moving along the plot, like they have their own roles. So I feel like that's their primary purpose here. And
Hmm.
then once their purpose is spent, then that's it. A lot of the characters we were introduced to in book two, like uh, Timu, he
Yeah.
has a different name now, which is also kind of confusing. You have to learn two names for a lot of the characters.
Timu is the oldest son, right?
Uh,
That
is
gets
he?
married. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
there's Firo is the
Hero is the younger
like,
son.
okay, he's a quote unquote emperor, which is like another bag of worms.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so a lot of the characters that like are built up and kind of primed for us as a reader to identify with, they just they fulfill their purpose, and then they kind of fade into the background, and they may or may not be seen again. Like, who knows?
Right.
Um, yeah, so that's kind of like the sense I'm getting now at book three.
Hmm.
Yeah, it is hard to like. There are some characters that are constant, like Gia, but
Right.
I don't know if she's the best example for that emotional connection.
Yeah, she is not, because she is cold as ice. Like, she's sleeping with a bunch of dudes. Like,
Well,
and then,
yeah, I mean, there's a purpose to that. She wants to like give off the image that she's like kind of descended into hedonism when she's actually
yeah,
still like plotting.
right. And
Which I still like don't like how she's like I don't know. For me, it's just not believable. Like, she's so smart,
yeah,
but what she's fighting for is so naive. Like, someone that smart should realize that what she's
yeah,
doing like ain't gonna work. Like, that's
yeah,
you can't change humanity's nature by doing what she's doing. So far,
right.
she might surprise us in the last book, but so far, like, I don't know, it's not believable to me.
She just seems so conniving. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and
like I know what like she's going for. Like Ken Liu
Uh-huh.
is setting her up to be like, oh, I'm doing evil for all the right reasons. I'm taking on all the sins because it's the
Yeah.
right thing to do and no one else will. I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. It's just for some reason, like, yeah, it's just not as believable to me.
Because if we think about the first book, okay, the way it read when it comes to her is she's kind of like a free spirit. It's not like a heavy burden on her. You know what I mean? Until the latter half of the book, where you know, um, what was his name? Mata Zindu.
Yeah.
When he takes over, then there are issues because he keeps her and Garu apart, right?
Hmm.
So I always felt like, she was kind of like a doctor. She's like wise, but also has fun. She always wants to do the more interesting thing. And then in the second book, she went ape shit. Like she went crazy, like angry, everything, right? And
Yeah,
then,
it's like, like anything related to the military, like even faintly so, is evil. She like
yeah,
basically kills a bunch of people just because they have the chance, you know,
yeah,
to to like become figureheads in a war.
yeah.
Like especially when they're gonna get invaded, it's like, well, like I don't know.
Well, she also started like a rebellion in the second book.
was
So,
it was that her or was she manipulating the what's his face?
well,
Rin?
that's what I mean. She manipulated or whatever his name was. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like in this book, what do you like? She has this huge secret like throughout this book. Is she making poison? I think she's making poison or something.
No, she's making a drug that's so addictive. Like if you withhold it, it makes them go crazy, basically.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I
So it
was
seems
thinking
like, yeah,
opium.
yeah, yeah, probably. Like withdrawals will make you go crazy. So
Yeah,
basically, it's probably going to be used as a tool to control other people.
because at first I was thinking she was making like a biological warfare, like some kind of disease like COVID.
Huh. I mean, it could be. It has
Yeah,
same purpose.
yeah, that's true. But okay, so we talked a bit about her. Um, I kind of want to get your thoughts on like who your favorite character is because for me, I know Thera is great in this book. The older sister who is the empress, quote unquote. Um, and I love the relationship that they establish with her and Takval. Like when they're in that area in the Liuku lands.
Hmm.
And then I also see this is where we'll probably like be divided. I really enjoy Farah in this book.
Yeah,
Um
yeah. I'm not saying I did not enjoy those character arcs, but it was just like getting there like took a lot more time than it probably had to, in my opinion.
yeah.
Like the way and the time it took.
Yeah,
But at the
cuz
end, like, their character arcs are very important. Their relationship as well is very
mhm,
important. Like we see the climax of the book is their relationship is tested and Kinry makes his choice seemingly.
mhm.
So yeah, no, like I agree with you. Those are important characters. I like them as characters. It was just like the whole getting there just kind of lost me
Right.
until like, the very end.
Okay, so let's talk about this Kinry guy cuz you keep bringing him up. So why don't you explain a little bit of who this guy is?
Yeah.
Cuz
So
oh,
yeah,
sorry. I was just going to say like it creates a star-crossed lovers kind of thing at the very end. But yeah, you go first.
yeah. So Kinry is the son of a Thane, like a Liuku Thane
Yeah,
called
Ghost Hand.
yeah, Gojtan. Pronunciation is, I have no idea.
Yeah,
And our old friend Oge Kidos
Oga.
Oga, yeah.
Yeah,
Which,
Kadosu or something.
yeah, which makes him the half brother of Zomi Kidosu,
Yeah,
a major character in book 2 and somewhat in book 3.
right.
So yeah, so like, the discovery of this is, it's like a tremendous game changer. Um, yeah, so there's also a lot of questions. It's like, well, like, why did Zomi's long lost father have a child with a Liu Ku? Like, that's a whole issue that I think Kinry is still wanting to know.
Right.
Yeah. So
Well, if you recall, she pretty much like forced
had
herself on him.
had her way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um but at the same time, what I'm always coming back to is Ken is able to create like these very sympathetic characters, especially with Ghost Tanner, however you say her name. And then he can also write crazy characters like the one dimensional villain that you were talking about, and the other one dimensional villain. What's her name? She's also a Thane.
Yeah.
She's against Kanta Kantavanaka or something.
Yeah. Yeah, but basically she's a Thane who sways the Ryukyu invasion force that's occupying Dara.
Yeah.
What they call like unredeemed Dara.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Kutan Rovo.
Yeah.
Kutan Rovo. Yeah.
Yeah. She's basically is she committing genocide?
Um.
Like,
Well, not
no.
technically. She's just. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. She is right. She's killing the Darans.
Yeah, she's basically like wreaking havoc on these
Yeah.
islands. Yeah, she is very not very nice.
Yeah. There's a scene where she basically does she smash a baby? Like she kills a baby.
Yeah, I think she drops him in a well or something.
Oh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, she's threatening to drop it, and I think she smashes it with her stick later, like
Oh
in
yeah.
front of the mom, and then she just like kills all the parents and basically raises the area. So basically, what happens in this book is that you find out that the Ryukyu are actually sort of divided, right? There's one side of the Ryukyu people that follow like Kutenrovo, and they want to just like take over Dara completely. And then there's the other group with Gostan, who they just want to like try to figure out a peaceful way to assimilate,
Yeah.
like not destroy them, but like let's try to do some kind of exchange here. Well, and the fact, and then you know what I really like. I'm gonna bring this up and see. I want to see what you have to say about it.
Hmm.
But I love the idea of the two conflicting story, the way they tell stories, right? So for the Daran people, they tell stories through logograms and through words, right? Through physical writing and everything like that.
Yeah.
Whereas the Ryukyu, they tell stories through performance and voices and like talking. And there's a there's there's a part where they're kind of talking about how stories can change when you learn something more, right? And at first, Gostan is like, "Oh, this is you're taking my story and you're manipulating it." When she first meets Olga, which makes her mad, but later on she softens. I don't really remember why, but something happens where she softens and realizes that it's not a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
And then there's another thing about the grand examinations. I remember last book with the Wall of Storms. I hated that whole grand examinations thing, but I thought it was really interesting in this book because it was kind of like, okay, Zomi is saying, "Oh, I don't want to do all the old classics, right? Blah blah blah. I don't want to do. You don't have to write in that old way or whatnot." and all the students get pissed off at her because they're like, we, you know, we like tradition. We're okay with tradition. We're okay with learning these things and showing you what we've learned. And then on top of that, we can do other stuff, you know? So I really thought that was interesting, getting into that nitty gritty with storytelling, with the transfer of knowledge. Like, what about you? What did you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely layers to that. I think it all goes back to what we saw with the what happened to the Dara gods when the Liu Q
Oh,
invaded. I
yeah.
think that's all just like layering on top of each other.
Uh huh.
Um yeah, like the gods here, oh, wasn't there a section on was it Lutho who became a human?
Yep. Thorio.
Yeah, then she just kind of disappeared for the rest of the book.
Yeah, because I'm really interested in her. She kind of took a backseat to like Thera because she was on Thera's boat when they crossed the wall of storms. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I think it's like to me from what I'm getting out of that like all of those messages so far is like change is inevitable. You can resist it, but it'll happen no matter what.
Uh-huh.
Hey, maybe that's Ken Liu's master plan. Like he's showing us, yeah, like with all these characters, don't get too attached because like life is short. I'm going to change out all of them.
Yeah.
This is how it is. So maybe it's like the master plots to show that. So maybe that's the reason why the characters seem to just come here, do one thing, and just go.
I think that's a really good point because already they're establishing the children of King Timu and Thera. And if it's anything like the previous books, I feel like their children will be a big part of the book, of Speaking Bones, at least.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe Speaking Bones will span multiple generations. You know,
Oh my
this
god! Well, it is like freaking 1,150 pages, so I it's definitely gonna be a hard read, man. And I'm not ready for it yet, but we're gonna do one in between. So yeah, thank God.
yeah, but
um,
yeah, as we said with before, like this is a very different style of story.
yeah,
We're traditionally used to hear the characters, get to know them really well,
yeah.
and that's it. Like without the character, there's not much of a book left.
Hmm.
Here, it's less about the characters and it's more about,
The
I guess,
ideas, maybe.
yeah, like ideas. Like technology is always progressing. The engineering is still amazingly detailed and explained.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, stories. It's a very I don't want to say inhuman, but it's like a very it tries to like zoom out a lot with like and tries to look at things from not as personal of a lens, if
And
that makes sense.
I think you mentioned it before. It's like third person omniscient, right? You're kind of looking down on these people, right?
Yeah, kind of like the gods when during their section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
I definitely think that they are more participatory in this book than they were in the previous books, though.
yeah, more so in the the cook-off section.
The section you didn't enjoy as much.
Well, honestly, if that had been the start of book 4, I probably would have enjoyed it. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. Like, it's just a very drastic shift.
Yeah, actually, when I think about it, it is because basically, the tone is very serious throughout the first 60% that you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
And then that at that 40% when the cook off starts, it kind of has this lighthearted, still serious tonal shift. And I honestly, I think that's why I latched onto it a little more because throughout these three books, a lot of it has been about politics and war. And with this new section, it felt like he was writing in a different style. Like he was trying something new a little more than he had previously. And I kind of like that. I do agree with you that the villain is one dimensional, but like everyone around the whole cook off was far more interesting. And it really continued like Jason, you're kind of asking me like why the hell did they do this? You remember?
I mean, that was like right after, that was like about 20 pages into the cook off. I was like, because you're going from like super high stakes, like
Yeah.
Thera, her people, like if she loses, then basically there's no more hope for Dara. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Like they just
Yeah.
lay down and die basically. Go from that to the stakes are, um what's her name, Wasu, widow Wasu loses
Yeah.
her status as best restaurant in the city. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like it's really hard to get invested when the stakes go from like beyond life or death, like the fate of a nation is hanging on your shoulders, to I'm gonna not be the best restaurant anymore.
And the one thing I would argue with in terms of that is it if we look at it at a different way, I kind of mentioned this to you, but like for me, the stakes were still high, mainly because the bad guy that's setting all this up, he's actually working with the Liu Ku to try to kidnap like all these engineers and architects and things like that for the Liu Ku to somehow figure out how to create the necessary technology. So the stakes are still high. They're just set up in a different fashion in my thought. Like and then on
Yeah,
top of that, they still had a lot of fun. It was it it
yeah,
was it's kind of like going from okay, so the first book starts off fun and then it gets super serious, right? The
yep,
second book, it had a continuous seriousness. And then this book, it went from super serious back to that fun. And you kind of see that Farah and Farah is sort of like her dad in certain instances, right? And who knows, Farah might be at the end, one of the most important characters in the fourth book. I don't know because we haven't looked at it. But that's kind of why I enjoyed it because you're getting a look at all these kids, right? I think Kunigaru actually has 4 kids. It's Timu, um, who actually. What did you think about Timu in this book?
yeah. Like he finally grew some balls, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I was like, okay, go Timu. Like, he's because so what happens is basically he's a figurehead. Van, what's her name? Like Vadu, the
Oh,
queen, queen of the Ryuku.
yeah,
She basically like everyone knows she's in power, and Timu is just like a figurehead, but he
right.
speaks up like the very first time, you know,
Uh huh.
and he still kind of gets stomped, but he's made his point.
Yeah. Um, and then I thought it was interesting because the Thane, whatever her name is, what was it?
Kutan
View?
Rovo,
Huh? Say it again.
Kutan Rovo.
Isn't that the dad though?
No, no, that's you mean the evil,
No,
the evil
the
thing,
wife of Timu,
Vadu.
Vadyu, right?
Well, she has
So
multiple names too, so
yeah, I know that's the shitty part. Like you have to memorize all these names.
yeah,
But Vadyu, her brother actually becomes a significant part of before the cook off happens. He's the reason why uh Thera kind of loses her army, right? Him and oh
the thing that
Takbal's
sold her out. Remember?
yeah, Takbal's uncle, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's his name? Like Votan or something?
Yeah, I think you're right. The names are crazy. Don't ask us to remember them. I'm going back and forth in my glossary of names right now, and it's just really difficult with all the names. But I think his name is Volyu. Yeah, Volyu.
Yeah, there's a V.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I just I was okay with the tonal shift just because we've been in this world and it's been so darn serious. And for me, like I still saw the stakes and I really enjoyed it because I don't know. I think it's also because I've been watching like Master Chef Junior or something. So I kind of felt for them. But it also goes back to like the whole idea of storytelling. Um because remember one of the challenges is like how to make who's the most entertaining, right?
Yeah.
And I think Farah creates a roller coaster or like the Universal Studio tour. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff that they do.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. If I don't keep it at a 4.5, it's still a 4 for me because I do agree with you. The tonal shift is weird. This book is way too long. There's way too many characters, but I actually enjoyed this a lot more than the second book. That's for sure.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, anything else you want to bring up? Like any of the themes that like stuck out to you, or like I don't know. Did you mention what your favorite part of this book was?
Um. So a couple scenes,
Okay.
the submarine sabotage mission. Remember
Yeah.
that near the
Yeah.
beginning? That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, that stood out to me just because of like the crazy technology. It's like, how the hell do you make a submarine work when you don't have, modernized technology? And they figured it out, and they explain all of it.
Yeah. And it's really fun because they meet like two Thanes that join their team, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So that's good.
Yeah.
Um how did they figure out how to do it again? I don't remember. Did like breathing tubes or something?
Yeah, they have like materials on hand, like they drilled a hole, then they had like this paste they used to like make it watertight.
Hmm.
Um yeah. So one thing that I'm realizing is when it comes to the technology,
Yeah.
it seems like they always have something ready on hand. Like it never seems to fail, It's always like,
Yeah.
oh, like they need to do this, but so and so like came up with this idea, so they do it. So, it's like less of a uh how do you say it? Like it's more of a vehicle to like explain these engineering concepts to the reader instead of like a
Hmm.
real is it a will they won't they, because most if not all the time it does succeed.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's kind of like a Deus ex machina. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I found this.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it comes out of nowhere. Like they'll have a scene where they're in the lab, and then it'll like cut, and then on the battle it'll be like, but those late night paid off, and then they figured that out. They'll pull something out, but
Right.
there's more, and they'll like pull something out. So it's kind of works like that. Which
Yeah.
I don't know if like to me if that's the strongest way to handle things, but
Hmm.
when your primary goal is to like show off like how amazing the ideas and the engineering is, then yeah, sure.
Right. Okay. Okay. So the submarine thing you enjoyed,
Yeah.
but you're kind of iffy on the execution,
Well, I
like
guess not
certain
not not
points.
not unique to the submarine scene, just all of those scenes in general where they're doing
Hmm.
crazy shit, like the end of book 2 with the airship battle, like that again.
Oh,
So, um
right, right.
yeah, I feel like book 1 had a lot of tech like engineering, but the books just keep adding more and more building onto that.
Right, right. I
Which
agree.
is which is a part of the like it's a theme, like it's always improving.
Yeah. Like taking old ideas and building up on them. Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
exactly. Yep.
Uh, what
Another
else?
another scene is probably the very end. I would say the between Farah
Uh huh.
and Kinry, like that's probably one of the emotional highlights of the series so far.
Yeah.
To me, there have been a few. Book one, that's when Mata Zindu takes his own life instead of surrendering.
You're right.
Book two,
I don't.
probably,
Yeah.
yeah, probably where Kunigaru has to like surrender, give himself up.
Oh, and
Uh,
jumps out the airship.
yeah, but then again, it's like that's just seems like a totally different character to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like, and then here when Farah and Kinry are confronting each other, it's like another emotional confrontation, I guess, slash climax that I enjoyed.
Yeah. I actually, I'll agree with you on that. I think book two, what they were going for was the Zomi and the Thera, because
Yeah,
that still goes into this one. But for some reason, I'm a little more sympathetic to what you just mentioned, just like Kinry and Farah,
hmm,
because I feel like throughout the story they established that relationship a little better than they did with the Thera and the Zomi. It might just be the atmosphere of which they're living in, because when Zomi and Thera meet, they're pretty much trying to squash like a rebellion and then the beginning of the Liu. But but in freaking Farah and Kinry, it's kind of more of a lighthearted. They're able to learn about each other naturally rather than through like an intense, you know what I mean? Intense action.
yeah, exactly. Yep.
So it's a little more organic, so you feel a little more for them. Okay, and then uh I feel like we always kind of try to talk about the characters. Like, what did you think about the development of like the old characters going into this book?
I would say in terms of development going into this book, Kinry and Farah, they're new to this book, so I'm gonna leave
Right.
them aside. I would
Okay.
say Thera and Takval's relationship,
Mm-hmm.
because like going like on the end of book two, you're like, oh man, like Thera's leaving behind her true love.
Yeah.
She's like going to a new land with this dude, like first of all, like does she even like him? Uh,
Right.
an asshole. Like we don't know much about him.
Right.
So like I think their development and their relationship, like it kind of, of course, it's kind of cold at first and polite, but then you do see them learn to like care for each other and respect each other and learn more about each other. So I think that's cool.
Yeah, I
Uh,
agree.
so I like their development. Zomi's in here, but she's not in here too much.
Yeah,
We
I
see
was
her.
surprised.
Yeah, I mean, we do see her. Like we see her kind of getting sick of politics, like court intrigue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember, we see Kunigaru's old buddy Kogo, Kogo Yelu.
Yeah.
He's like a master, and she's like man, I just don't like people like this.
But she learned something from him, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, yep. So she's a little bit developed, and Gia, she's developed too, but more into like the big villain, like, oh, look what I'm cooking up.
Yeah, I think her character is getting a little worse, actually.
Mm. Well, the payoff might be worth it. I'm still hoping like she has some grand plan that's gonna knock my socks off.
She's gonna be a Darth Vader. I'm your father. We already know that.
uh,
um,
who else? Did I leave anyone out?
um, I think we sort of talked about Timu.
Yeah, Firo kind of is in here. We see him
Yeah,
mature a little bit, but he's still like very much militaristic.
yeah. He's
Um,
he's he's kind of like Mata Zindu and Jin Mazodo.
yeah, but I think he's a little bit like more mature. Like he's not as hot headed as before, but
Yeah,
nothing nothing dramatic.
yeah, I agree with you there.
Who else?
What did you think about Thorio for the limited time that we had with her?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of expected her to just learn very quickly. She is, a god after all.
Right.
He slash she. Um, yeah. Doesn't she sort of become Thera's advisor in a way?
Well,
Not
the thing
officially.
is, like, she is Thera's kind of best friend on that tour because she looks at things in a different light and it helps Thera come up with ideas. I think that's what that is.
Uh,
What'd you give it?
2.75.
2.75. Okay. Okay. Well, at the end of the day, I'm not gonna go with a 4.5. I will go with a 4. I did really like this book. Um,
Well, I mean, it's all about how you enjoyed it, right?
right, right, right. So I'm wondering, before we end, does this deter you in any way from reading the fourth book?
Um, Probably not, because all of the places, like as I said before, all of the pieces are falling into place.
Mm-hmm.
And we've already sunk a lot of time in the series. Why would I not want to see how it pans out?
Right,
Um, and it's not like I don't like what like the culmination of the cook-off sequence.
right.
Like I totally get like where he was going with it. It's just like as a reader, it's not conducive to your momentum.
I see what you mean.
So yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to the end of everything, if it even is the end. Maybe there's going to be like a sequel series.
Oh my gosh. We've been reading these huge, massive tomes by Ken Liu. I kind of am curious, like, what is a Ken Liu short story like? You know what I mean? Because you can create these huge ideas all within, like, let's say 4,000 pages all combined, right? But what Ken Liu came about originally were these short stories. I think he even has a Star Wars like 200-page novel out right now.
200? Wow.
Yeah. And it just blows my mind like this guy, he can do long and he can do short, and we haven't read the short yet, but like I'm very curious like what else he's able to do, you know? Cuz it's not easy to do a short story.
I don't know if it's easier or harder. It depends on the writer.
Yeah, I'm super interested in his bibliography. Um but yeah, that is our episode on the Veiled Throne. Jason, thank you for reading this with me. It's not over yet, but we got to figure out when we're going to do the next book. But
Yeah. Speaking of next, what's on the docket?
I don't know, man. I think we're still talking about it. But last we spoke, we are going to try to read Sword of Kaigan by
Yeah.
M.L. Wong, right?
Yep. And even though it's 600 pages, it's a standalone, I think.
Yeah.
The author has done other books in the same universe, but
Mhm.
this should be a nice one-off. So, should we decide to go for it, then yeah, yeah, maybe it'll be nice and short.
So before we end, like, have you heard of? like this guy's books before or this girl's books before? Like, what made, or you know what? We'll just talk about it on the next episode.
Well, I'll slip you a little hint.
Okay.
Um, so on the Reddit r/fantasy, which is a
Uh huh.
subreddit that I peruse
Uh
occasionally,
huh. Yeah.
it's come up quite a bit, and
Okay.
the common thread is it broke me. So
I'll tell you this book broke me, but yeah, what were you saying?
yeah, I want to get broken.
um what I will say is the Sword of Kaigen, the cover image is really dope and it looks like a samurai on a cliffside. So if you haven't read it, go pick it up. And if you haven't read The Veiled Throne, go pick it up. And Speaking Bones recently came out in June of 2022. So we're going to end up reading it soon. So go pick that up as well. And everyone keep reading out there. Anything else, Jason?
No, that's it. Thanks for listening, and see you all next time.
All right, later, guys. Bye.